Her dark auburn hair curled becomingly against her cheek, and her light blue eyes glowed with wariness. Those arms had once held him close, as they strained together toward ecstasy. Deep inside, he had dreaded his reaction to seeing her again, but he was now curiously indifferent. "Hello, Richard," she said with a tentative smile. Maria glanced between them, then, with a sob, fled. The Countess strolled closer. "Lady Benchley seems distressed." At his silence, Aurelia continued, "How lovely to see you again, Richard. It's been a while." It had been 2 years since he had been foolish enough to tell her he loved her and asked her to marry him. She had been mercenary enough to reject his hand because he was a second son, despite the fact she had been carrying his child. After her refusal, he had approached her father, hoping to secure his approval. The courage it had taken to face the Earl after Richard had seduced his daughter and gotten her with child had been no easy feat. It hardly mattered Aurelia had been a willing participant, and that there were times Richard felt as if he had been the one to fall under her charms and wiles. He had still felt like a cad, a libertine, and undeserving of her. Her father had been even more heartless in his refusal of Richard's offer. "Countess," he said flatly with a short, mocking bow. He chuckled roughly when her hands fluttered delicately to wrap around her middle, and her lips formed a moo of regret. Her eyes glittered with unshed tears. There was nothing frail about her. She had been happily persuaded by her ambitions to terminate their child and marry a man twice her age, all for a wealth and prestige he had no hopes of accomplishing. Every secret smile across the dance floor of a ball, the sighs of happiness and completion, the promises. God, the promises. They had all been sweet lies he'd eagerly lapped up. The mere memory of how his heart had pounded with anguished hope as he tried to hammer at her resistance filled him with disgust. "You disappeared from society's events with no words after... She laughed nervously and wetted her lips, an action that once would have filled him with raging need for her. Richard was damned grateful the only thing stirring inside him was impatience. After her betrayal, he joined the army as a reporting officer. His love for her had been in vain, and he'd been unable to stay in London. It would have been unbearable for him to pretend indifference and idly stand by as she became the Countess of Trenear. So he had fled. The past 2 years had seen him living on the edge of danger, scouting out trouble for the army, even behind enemy lines. His devil-may-care attitude had left him intact, apart from a couple of minor scratches. He did not mention his commission to his parents, the Duke and Duchess of Salop, who seemed unconcerned to see so little of him. When on furlough in London, he did not wear his uniform or mention the war. His friends' questions as to his whereabouts were ignored or answered enigmatically with, "Here and there." From the tone of his father's letters, which Richard's valets sent on to Portugal and reached him erratically, they assumed he was living a life of wild debauchery abroad. His man, Timmins, continued to live in Richard's lodgings and answer social invitations on his behalf, declining those he would not be able to attend. Timmins was the only person he bothered to communicate with back in England. Somehow the polite world thought he was a disreputable rake. Rubbish, of course. He'd only removed the desire in his heart to marry, and he did not believe in the idiocy of love. He would never again place his trust in the sweet lies that spilled from a woman's lips. When ladies made their choice of husband, their criteria were based on wealth and societal power, not tender sentiments. When he was in England, he gambled.